I didn't flinch when the red wine spread across the silk like a slow-opening wound. The fabric darkened in an instant, the stain blooming with a kind of vicious elegance. I kept my hand still at my sides as I looked up at her, my mother-in-law, who tilted her head just enough to appear innocent to everyone else. Her lips curled, not into a smile, but into something tighter, sharper, an expression made for private victories. "Accidents happen," she murmured, soft enough for only me to hear. But her eyes betrayed her, narrowing with the kind of delight people only feel when they've finally landed a blow. She wanted me to crumble.
To cry.
To panic. She wanted to see the ruin on my face. I didn't give her any of it. Not because it didn't hurt, because it did, in a way that felt oddly physical, but because I already knew something she thought she'd buried forever. I knew who she really was. And in less than an hour, everyone else would, too. I met her long before I ever met him, my husband. People always assume the mother comes second in the love story. Not in ours. She was the first chapter. She approached me in a bookstore, all warmth and eagerness, telling me she'd been hearing about me for weeks. She hugged me too tightly for a first meeting, as though she'd been waiting for me her entire life. She called me fresh air, said her son needed someone exactly like me. I believed her because back then, her sweetness was intoxicating. The first year, she was the perfect mother-in-law. She brought me homemade soup when I was sick, the kind with herbs I couldn't pronounce but tasted like comfort. She bought me dresses she said would bring out my best self. She introduced me as her future daughter with a pride that felt genuine. She spoke softly, smiled easily, and slipped affection into every gesture. But affection can rot. And hers did. Not all at once. Not loudly. More like the slow shifting of a house settling at night. Subtle, almost invisible, until the pattern forms. A comment about how I shouldn't get too comfortable. A lingering look when her son complimented me. A quiet reminder that I should be grateful he chose me. And the cutting remark she delivered with a sweet voice. "You're not his type. He usually goes for better." I tried to rationalize it. She was insecure. Afraid of losing influence. Overprotective. Something manageable. Something forgivable. I didn't see the truth until the day a message flashed across my husband's phone while he showered. Not from a friend. Not from family. From her. "I know you think she's perfect. Don't worry, she won't last." My breath caught. My mind didn't. I opened the thread. There were months of messages. Her voice, dripping with poison, manipulating him, undermining me, planting doubt wherever she could. She bent stories, invented incidents, rewove memories to suit her narrative. She wasn't afraid of losing him. She was afraid of losing power.
And she didn't want a daughter-in-law.
She wanted an obedient extension of herself. I realized in that moment that she saw me as a threat to the throne she'd crafted in her own delusions. That night I didn't scream, didn't confront, didn't cry. I simply picked up my phone and began planning. I played along with her, thanked her when she corrected me, smiled when she insulted me under the guise of advice, pretended to misunderstand her digs. Meanwhile, I collected everything: screenshots, recordings, witnesses. Proof of her manipulation, her lies, her sabotage of our relationship. Proof of her cruelty when she thought no one was watching. She'd spent years perfecting subtlety. But I had something she never considered: patience. I waited until the wedding day. The day she couldn't resist stealing the spotlight. The day she'd be her most unguarded because she believed she'd already won. And in that moment, when she deliberately spilled wine onto my dress, watching it spread like spilled blood, she thought she'd broken me. I walked away quietly, letting her think she'd triumphed. She assumed I was running to fix the disaster she created. But I wasn't fixing anything. I was finishing everything. I changed into my second dress, clean, white, sharp, and handed the planner a USB. "Play this," I said, right before I walk in. Certainty is its own disguise. People rarely question it. When I stepped back into the hall, the lights dimmed. A video flickered to life. Her voice filled the room first, soft, venomous. Then the messages. Then her laughter as she mocked my family. Then her bragging about manipulating her son. Then her calling me temporary. Then every lie, every whisper, every cruel little thought she'd ever tried to hide. All of it played in front of 200 guests. Her friends, her relatives, her carefully curated social circle. And him, her son, who stood paralyzed, as if seeing her for the first time without the filter she'd painted over herself for decades. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My husband's face drained of color. And she stopped breathing for a second, her entire body tightening like she'd been slapped by the truth itself. I walked down the aisle slowly. No music, no chatter, just the weight of everything settling around us. My husband stepped toward me, voice breaking. How long have you known? Long enough, I said. Long enough to let the truth do the talking. He looked at me, then at her, the realization finally cutting through the fog she'd kept him in. And then he whispered the words she feared the most.
I'm sorry.
I didn't want to believe she could do this. She snapped. You're taking her side after everything I've done for you?
Exactly, he said.
After everything you've done. Her kingdom cracked beneath her. Later, after the humiliation settled into her bones, she cornered me away from the crowd. You ruined me, she hissed. I stepped closer, lowering my voice.
No.
You ruined yourself. I just gave everyone a front row seat. She had no words. For the first time, she was truly speechless. Because she finally understood that I wasn't the fragile girl she tried to fracture. I was the woman she forged in silence, the one who watched, waited, and struck with precision. And as I stood beside my husband, surrounded by people who finally saw her clearly, I understood something with perfect clarity. She didn't spill the wine to destroy me. She spilled it to expose herself. I simply let her.